Cleopatra and Mark Antony vanished into history, and their tomb still hasn't been found. The Sphinx lost its nose centuries ago, and nobody really knows why. Ancient stone discs, mysterious pyramids, sunken cities, and hidden chambers under the Sphinx, these are more unsolved mysteries from ancient Egypt. Cleopatra and Mark Antony are about as famous as it gets from the ancient world, and everyone just assumes there's some massive tomb out there for them somewhere. Ancient Roman writers say they were buried together after they both died in 30 BCE, but nobody's ever found it, which is honestly kind of insane. These were two of the biggest names in history, and yet nothing's ever turned up. For over 20 years, an archaeologist named Kathleen Martinez has been digging around a temple site called Osiris Magna, near Alexandria in northwest Egypt. Her team found coins with Cleopatra's face on them and tunnels running thousands of feet underground. Then in 2025, she teamed up with Bob Ballard, the same guy who found the Titanic, and they found a sunken ancient port that dates back to Cleopatra's time. That harbor might have been how bodies were transported from the Nile into the temple area, but even with all that, the coins, the tunnels, everything, no actual tomb has ever been found that anyone can point to and say, that's them. Some researchers think the burial is somewhere underwater, under old Alexandria. Others think it's buried deep at Osiris Magna. Either way, over 2,000 years later, we still have no idea where two of the most famous people who ever lived are actually buried. The Great Sphinx is one of the most recognizable things ever built, and it might be most famous for something that's missing. Its nose. That nose has been gone for centuries, and people still argue about what happened to it. The most popular story is that Napoleon's soldiers shot it off with a cannon. Almost certainly not true. There are drawings of the Sphinx from the 1600s and 1700s that already show no nose, and Napoleon didn't show up until the late 1700s. The explanation that gets thrown around the most comes from a historian named al-Markizi, who wrote about it in the 1400s. He said that back in the 1300s, a man named Muhammad Saim al-Dar saw locals leaving offerings at the Sphinx, trying to get good crops and rain, and he thought it was idol worship. So he reportedly had the nose chiseled off to put a stop to it, but even that's not 100% confirmed. There's no clear, definitive answer. In 1936, archaeologists digging at Saqqara, a big burial site south of Cairo, cracked open a tomb belonging to a man named Sabu and found something that's still a mystery to this day. A flat stone disc with a hole in the center and 3 curved spokes. Kinda looks like a giant stone hubcap or a weird propeller. It's been dubbed the Sabu Disk, and nothing else from that era looks anything like it. The disk is about 5,000 years old, older than the Step Pyramid, older than most of the big monuments people think of when they think of ancient Egypt, but nobody knows what this thing was for. It's made of really brittle stone, except there are no signs of wear, so it probably wasn't used as a regular tool. Some archaeologists think it was a ritual object of some kind or a container. People outside mainstream academia have gone further, saying it might have been part of some kind of mechanical device, but nothing else like it has ever been found from the same time and place. It's completely one of a kind, so we still have no real answer. Most Egyptian pyramids can be tied to a specific pharaoh, like Khufu with the Great Pyramid. But out at Saqqara, just south of the Step Pyramid, there's another pyramid from somewhere around 1800 to 1650 BCE, and nobody knows who built it. Archaeologists call it the Southern South Saqqara Pyramid. It's clearly ancient, clearly royal, but there's no name on it. Researchers found an elaborate underground chamber and stone fragments that all point to royal construction, but no name inscription anywhere. Which is strange, because Egyptian kings basically always made sure their name was carved all over their stuff. In 2008, an Egyptologist named Christopher Diaz suggested it might belong to a ruler named Dahuti based on nearby fragments, but it's not widely accepted. The pyramid also never got its smooth outer casing stones finished, and parts of it look like construction just abruptly stopped one day, and that would actually fit the time period, the 13th dynasty. During this time, Egypt's central government was breaking down, and kings had really short reigns, so building projects kept getting left unfinished. In 525 BCE, the Persian king Cambyses II invaded Egypt. At some point, he sent an army of around 50,000 soldiers across the western desert. According to the Greek historian Herodotus, that army never made it. A massive sandstorm supposedly swallowed all of them. The men, the camels, all their weapons, everything. And that was it. People have been chasing this story for centuries. In the 1930s, a British officer named Ord Wingate went out searching the desert for bones or equipment, and he came back with nothing. In the 80s, teams from Harvard and National Geographic found old burial mounds and traces of settlements, but nothing that could be definitively linked to the army. And more recently, Egyptian archaeologists found cloth fragments, possible weapons parts, and human bones buried deep in the desert, hundreds of miles west of the Nile. Some people think it might be connected, but there's still no solid proof. There's no mass grave or like a pile of weapons, nothing that clearly says that this is them. When Howard Carter's team opened Tutankhamun's tomb in November of 1922, it set off one of the most persistent legends in history. The idea that messing with a pharaoh's burial will get you killed. The famous phrase, "death will come on swift wings," isn't actually written anywhere in the tomb, but that didn't stop newspapers worldwide from going crazy with it. A death that really got the ball rolling was Lord Carnarvon, the man who paid for the whole expedition. He died from a nasty infection just months after the tomb was opened, and the press immediately blamed the curse. And after that, anytime someone connected to the dig got sick or had something bad happen to them, it got added to the list. Visitors, scientists, even a canary apparently didn't survive. Ancient writers used to mention a major Egyptian port city called Thonis-Heracleion, a huge trading hub where ships from all over the Mediterranean came to dock, with massive temples built for the gods. But by the time Europeans were poking around Egypt in the 17 and 1800s, the city was nowhere, but it completely vanished. Turns out it was now underwater. In the late 90s and early 2000s, a French archaeologist named Frank Gaudiot and his team found the whole city sitting at the bottom of Abu Qir Bay near Alexandria. Massive stone columns, huge statues, long causeways and temples. Hundreds of shipwrecks, all of it was just sitting there underwater, thousands of years after the city went under. So what happened? Researchers think it wasn't one single disaster, but a bunch of things piling up. The ground under the city was soft sediment. When earthquakes hit, and ancient writers did record tremors and tidal waves in the area, well, that soft ground could basically turn to mush. There's a process called liquefaction, where the earth just acts like quicksand under a heavy load. At the same time, sea levels were rising and floods kept pushing water inland, so over time, the city just slid into the bay. Exactly how fast it happened, researchers are still working that out. There's a chance that there's something hidden under the Great Sphinx. Back in the early 90s, seismic surveys around the Sphinx picked up an anomaly beneath the front paws. That started a whole conversation about hidden chambers or underground rooms. The technology works by sending energy waves into the ground, reading what comes back. And in those readings, something under the front of the Sphinx was responding differently from the rock around it. Some researchers said it could be a void or a chamber. Others said it's probably just a natural cavity, just the way the rock happens to be formed. But nobody's actually gone under there to look. Part of that's because the Sphinx is old and fragile and nobody wants to damage it chasing an anomaly on a graph. So it might be something, it might be nothing. Until someone actually checks properly, it stays a mystery. In 2015, Egyptian and Czech archaeologists digging at the Abu Sir necropolis, a big cemetery southwest of Cairo, found the tomb of a queen. The inscription said she was both a wife of the king and a mother of the king. You'd think that would be enough to figure out who she was, but it wasn't. She wasn't named the typical way, and her inscriptions didn't match any queen already in the historical record. Her titles and the style of the tomb made clear that she was royalty, and because the tomb was right next to the funeral complex of Pharaoh Neferefre, who ruled around 4,500 years ago, most people think that she was his wife and the mother of his heir. Archaeologists have given her a working name, Khentkaus III, based on what the inscriptions do say, but beyond that, her story is basically gone. Was she powerful in her own right? Did she rule as a regent for a younger king? Who was her son? The layout of the tomb and the artifacts inside help with dating and show that she was important, but nothing actually tells her story. Right near the causeway connecting the Sphinx and Khafre's pyramid at Giza, there's a deep hole in the ground that almost nobody ever sees. It's called the Osiris Shaft. It's been known for nearly 100 years, but we still don't really understand what it was built for. An archaeologist named Salim Hassan first documented it in the 1930s, but the lower sections were completely flooded, and pumping them out didn't really work. It wasn't until the late 90s and early 2000s that Zahi Hawass and his team finally drained it enough to get down there and explore. And what they found was this whole network of shafts, chambers, and tunnels cut straight down into solid bedrock, almost 30 meters deep. The upper levels are pretty plain, but the middle layer opens into a chamber with massive stone coffins. Interestingly, some of those coffins are made from rock that doesn't come from Egypt, so that raises some questions. Zahi Hawass has said the design reflects Osiris's mythical underworld. It was likely a place where religious ceremonies took place, but nobody agrees on when it was first built. Most of the objects found inside date to Egypt's late period, around 664 to 525 BCE, but there are also fragments of much older pottery that might go all the way back to the Old Kingdom, which would mean the shaft was used long before anyone officially excavated it. That's been the video. I will catch you, yes you specifically, in the next one.